Our guest this week, she has been in the fight. She's been in the trenches. She's a lady that has actually done the work and kind of the work that Sai talks about on a regular basis. Um, Miss Karen Morrison. She is the founder, the president of Fighting for Your Freedom. So I want to bring her on. Miss Karen, how you doing today? Welcome
I'm
to the
doing
podcast.
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me. I,
No problem.
I'm excited to be joining because I listened to what Chris was saying, and Chris, we can actually continue that conversation because that's right up my alley.
Oh yeah, I know
Yeah.
it is. I know it is.
Yeah. So, Ms. Cass, thank you so much for spending your Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening with the podcasts and trying to chiming in on what we wanted to talk about. So, before we get started and kind of some of the work you have done in the past, tell us a little bit about who you are and your Fighting for Freedom organization.
Okay, so as everyone knows, my name is Karen Morrison, and I started Fighting for Freedom actually last year. So I was in the space of being an advocate for the last 6 years. And last year, when the pandemic happened, I decided that, you know what, I want to start a nonprofit organization because for some reason I just felt like this was going to be a really good time to try to help people get out of prison. The Federal Bureau of Prisons started making announcements very early by sending a memo out to say that, you know what, try to decarcerate the prison population as soon as possible because the virus was spreading. And the more people that remained in prison, the more people that were going to likely die. So I saw that opening and I said, okay, let's get in these trenches. And like Chris was saying, you know, under President Trump, he signed the First Step Act, which introduced two major clauses that actually helped us. One was compassionate release, that you no longer had to really go through the BOP. You just had to kind of file your request to the warden. But once he was denied, you didn't have to go through the whole lengthy process. And then you can actually go to court, to federal court, to ask for compassionate release. But the second thing that I saw, which was really beneficial for us, was the changes in the youthful offender, that there were some young men that was in prison that was under 21 that was serving life sentences. And so when we saw that clause, we were able to really help with, assisting with pro se motions so that we can actually fight for some young men who have been incarcerated under the age of 21 and that were doing life sentences. So I was really happy when that occurred. And with part of what we do with Fighting for Freedom is not only do we help with assisting with compassionate release, we do federal clemencies, and we also here in Virginia, we do conditional pardons, which is the same thing as clemency. And again, we saw an opening because our governor also wanted to do things to actually help decarcerate the prison population because, again, you didn't want too many people that would die because of a virus. So we took full advantage of it. I hit the ground running. It was me in the beginning, just by myself. And as I was pushing on social media, telling people, look, I need some help. I need some volunteers. We were able to get some people together to help me to file conditional pardons here in Virginia, and then also to work on some clemencies on the federal level.
And let me clear one thing up, Karen. When you say pro se, I want to let the people know. Pro se is when a defendant is filing his own motion. And a lot of times, and Karen, you can attest to this, they're doing it because they don't have the funds to hire a lawyer. So they're at the point where now they have to do it on their own. And, it's good if they can receive help. And that's one of the things that, and I say sometimes my hands are tied. A lot of times, if you're not going to just take a case straight pro bono, you can't just help somebody. Either you, as a lawyer, either you take it or you don't. And a lot of these cases are kicked out due to procedural technicalities. So if you don't know the time limits, the page limits, what you need to have filed, what you don't need to have filed, your case is kicked out. So pro se motions, although sometimes successful, are very hard, and without the assistance of somebody, would probably be impossible.
Yes, that is correct. And you have to remember too, because the person they're in prison, so they're handwriting their pro se motions, and sometimes you can't even read it for legibility. So part of what we do is, and they don't have the research, they can't really look for those cases, even though they may have access to the law library. See, I have a Pacer account, and so I can actually go into Pacer and do searches, or I have different means on the internet to like find cases to actually help support what their arguments are. And I remember the first 3 cases that I assisted with pro se motions. I want to keep it transparent. It was 2 ladies that were in Texas, and I thought, okay, good, we're going to work this together. They're going to send me what they want to say. We put it together. I send it back to them, to the prison. They sign it, and then they file it. Okay. So once we did that, it was out of Texas. By the time it docketed, like 5 days later, they were denied. And I'm saying, okay, so why are they denied? I mean, these women had health issues. They had great rehabilitation, but this judge was just so adamant on not really wanting to issue compassionate release. So he denied both of them. And so I was like starting to get discouraged. I was like, okay, I'm not good at this. I don't know what to do. I better leave this alone, because then you know, because you're trying to assist people. And then you're thinking that if I'm doing something in the court that's wrong, I may end up tying up the courts for them. Right. And they don't want to hear anything else if we were able to find an attorney. So I kind of just left that alone. And then I got another case, and this young lady was like really sick. And I was saying to myself, okay, Karen, you know, one thing about failure is that if you continue to feel like you're a failure, you're not gonna help. And so I said, okay, I told her the situation. I was like, listen, I just helped 2 other women. They were denied. I'm not sure. Just, can you really work with me? Tell me everything. I don't want to leave nothing out. And so we actually did that filing. Her name is Miss Yvette Cudd. And so she gave me all the information. This time she sent me certificates and everything else that she was doing. She had already served 20 years on a meth case. And so we put it together. And so the judge considered it. And so he ordered the prosecutor to weigh in. And so when the prosecutor weighed in and they sent the response, it was like this prosecutor came like if it was an attorney that was filing this. He pulled out every stunt, talked about all her records and everything else. And I was like, oh my God, you didn't tell me that you were in prison for something else. What are we supposed to do? And so I have an opportunity to call someone who is like, we call them jailhouse attorneys. And so he gave me some guidance, told me that, you know, they really can't bring up something that she did like 15 years ago. So just say that that's not the argument. She did her time. She's rehabilitated, but she's in prison for something else. And then she had medical issues. So we went back in, we answered the prosecutor. And once we put the motion in, believe it or not, the judge found compassion with her and we won. So that was my very first compassionate release motion that I assisted with. And we won, and she got out like, I think it might have been like 2 months, because she had to do the quarantine and a couple different things happened. And so she was released. And the judge gave us some really good language that he used. And so that helped us to be able to continue to use some of the language now, because, you know, he gave us a good opinion. And so then I went on, and I just want to tell you about this really case that I just feel like, I always talk about, because it was really something that was dear to me. I don't know if you guys heard of Wallace Rice. Wallace Rice was on a Frank Lucas indictment, and he had spent a lot of time in prison, and also Guy Fisher. And so Wallace Rice reached out to a gentleman and I by the name of Tommy Walker. And Tommy had earned his own release because he had been given like triple life sentences for drug. And, you know, he was the first one to do the First Step Act and found some loopholes for drug kingpins. And so he got out. So he wanted to come out and start to help. And he said, okay, Karen, like, I got the law part, you can write, but can you do the compassionate side? And so I wrote that for the last 38 years, Mr. Rice got up, despite having multiple life sentences, knowing that he was going to die in prison, completely rehabilitated himself. And I talked about all the things that he had done. Then Tommy chimed in with the law part, and then we requested an attorney because we knew that we had a really viable case. But again, you just don't know all the ins and outs. And the judge granted that, assigned an attorney. she did her thing, took it over, and Mr. Rice was released on a compassionate release.
Wow. And
Wow.
the thing about these things is when the government comes in and they say, we're going to start compassionate release, there is nothing for us to follow. So you're basically using defendants as guinea pigs because you don't know. You don't know what they're looking for. So the law is actually being made as we're working on the stuff. All you know is procedurally, this is what you have to do. Procedurally, you have to ask the warden first. If it goes past the warden, then you come back. But we don't actually know. So it's like, okay, like Karen is saying, so you get 2 and they may get denied, and you say, okay, well, what's the reason for the denial? Because what's very important are the words that the judge uses in this order. If he's saying I deny because blah blah blah, now you're saying, okay, but for this next one, I need to say this, and then you get that winner, and then you ride it. You just keep going. Like, okay, if they're releasing off of this and that, and because these judges, one thing that you'll never see is an elected federal judge, because they're appointed by presidents, and the appointment that they receive are lifetime appointments. So when you do the work, like when you do the work that I do, the first thing I want to know is how long has he been on the bench? Who appointed him? Is he a Reagan? Is he a Reagan appointee? Is he a Bush 1, Bush 2? Is he a Clinton appointee? Who is it? Because you can kind of figure out just a little bit about them once you figure out who appointed them, because they never have to retire.
Well, I got a question, and this is for both of you guys, and just from a layman's perspective, right? Say for instance, someone's been in jail, and they feel that they've been wrongly incarcerated or whatever. What is the first step for an individual who's in jail, or their family? What is one of the first things they do? Do they reach out to an organization or an attorney? What's one of the first things they should do to make sure they're successful?
Chris, you want me to take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so like with us, with the nonprofit organization, they can reach out to us, because what happens is we're on the ground, so we're advocacy. And so me personally, I'll ask them to send me some information about their cases, and I'll read it. I'll even go as far as reading their trial transcripts. And then I can kind of look and see some certain things, because a lot of people don't understand when you are wrongfully convicted, if you have already talked about things that's in the case, you can't bring it back, because it's already been ruled on. So you literally have to see if you can find something new. And so I'll give you an example for a case that I actually advocated for. The gentleman was in prison for malicious wounding, and he said the reason why he did it was because he was in a fight, right? And the person was being watched by the FBI, and so they got into a fight and he attacked them. So he was charged with malicious wounding. And so at the time, the judge says, well, I don't know about whether he's under investigation or not. And so she sentenced him for malicious wounding. So when I did my search again, because I have a PACER account, I was able to find information that he was indicted for, not only indicted, but he was convicted for counterfeit with the FBI. And so we can take that information now and come back to the drawing board with that particular family, and either we can try to see if we can assist them by finding an attorney, or in this particular case, I did a conditional pardon with the new information. And we're not going to go against the judge. All we're saying is that this judge didn't have all the information in front of her when she made the decision to sentence him, because he wasn't indicted at the time, and there was no proof that he was under investigation. But when we pull that information and we see that there was a conviction, so now you can go back to not even to the judge, but to the governor's office and say, here's all the information, and the judge didn't have it when she made her decision. And that's why we're asking for clemency. So to answer your question, they can reach out to organizations. There's a lot of organizations like Fighting for Freedom that will do the legwork, try to see if we can find a pro bono attorney for them, or if there's anything else that we can do to assist them. That's what we really do.
Awesome. Awesome. Good information.
And that's probably correct, because a lot of times, when people contact us, first of all, everybody's wrongly incarcerated. And whoever you talk to is going to say they're wrongly incarcerated. Oh man, I just blah blah blah. The thing about the law is some stuff you can't bring up. If you've pled guilty, which 97% of federal cases are resolved on a guilty plea, then
Mhm.
you've waived most of your rights. You see what I'm saying? So you
Oh,
telling me
wow.
this, I can't bring it up. You see what I'm saying? Karen may be able to bring it up, but I can't bring it up for fear of filing a frivolous motion and
Mhm.
getting sanctioned myself for
Mhm.
filing something that I knew I shouldn't file. So everybody's wrong. So you get what you get is you get people who call and say, hey, I want you to look at my case. Well,
Right.
damn, you got 1,000 docket entries.
Yes.
What am I looking for? Because, you know, if you're an attorney and say you've been practicing 8 to 10 years, your billable rate is probably $300 to $400 an hour. Who's
Mhm.
gonna pay me for this? You know, what am I
Right.
looking at? What am I looking for? Am I just supposed to go through and find what's wrong, or can you tell me? You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
you have to. What you got to do is first thing they're gonna know is who's handling the fee on this case, who's paying
Right.
for it. You know, like, because if you're inside, to you, oh man, we come up with $1,000. All right, that gets you roughly 3 hours of work. What you want me to do after that? Like, you know what I'm
Wow.
saying? Like, so in 3 hours, Karen, if I'm on Pacer, in 3 hours, you know, I'll go in, I might look at the indictment, I might look at the judgment, I might look at the plea, but there's going to be nothing in any of that stuff that's going to help me with finding out that you have that you've been wrongfully convicted. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To do that, I need to come talk to you, right?
Right.
So
Right.
That's more
normally
money.
in my situation, the first thing I want to do is go talk to my clients. You see what I'm saying? Because that's the only way I'm gonna find out. And then, you know, the thing about it is once these guys are inside, nobody knows their case like they do. They know their
Right.
case backwards, frontwards, upwards, downwards. They know everything about it, but you can't
Mhm.
really talk about it on the phone. They don't want to talk about it on the phone. So you got to go see them. With COVID, you can't go see them. So you're kind of sitting here and you're guessing like, damn, well, what I do. And you know, you can say, man, I can help. Say, you know, me, I'm gonna help 3 or 4 people that I don't charge, right? But
Mhm.
here's the thing: when I put my name on that case, the judge could give a damn if I charge them $100,000 or $0. I'm responsible for everything in that case. If I
Oh,
mess
wow.
that case up, I'm gonna be sanctioned. I could be disbarred. They
Mhm.
Right.
don't care. You can't say, oh, but I did it for free. No. I don't
So,
care.
so
If I
I guess in a way, Karen would be their first stop, right? I guess kind of like to just kind of like go through the red tape and just kind of like see what's what, and then I guess she would find an attorney that's willing to do it pro bono. Am I correct?
Well, depending on how long you've been in there, because
Okay.
if it's like a direct appeal and you hadn't been in for a while, then probably yes. I have heard horror stories of people who've been in for a long time, and they give the
Mhm.
attorney $3,000-4,000, and you know,
Mhm.
in 2 weeks they get a letter to say, "Hey, sorry, I reviewed your case file. Nothing we can do." That's
Oh,
totally
wow.
ethical by an attorney because it's probably taking me 3 or 4 hours. You paid me for 3 or 4 hours, so and any attorney you get has an hourly rate. They may charge you a flat fee, but they have an hourly rate just in case the case ever gets into what they call fee arbitration. So if
Mhm.
you ever say, you know what, hey, see why I paid you $5,000 and you ain't do nothing, and I say, well, excuse me, my hourly rate's $310, and I worked
Mhm.
for over 20 hours on this case. You actually owe me.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
see what I'm
So
saying?
Right.
so let me piggyback off of what Sean was saying, but Sean, that's a great point. And so we've been really blessed in our organization because I've had 2 situations. And I'll just share this with you. Like when I started, the very first case 6 years ago was with a gentleman by the name of Corey Jacobs, right? And so Corey Jacobs, when he reached out to me, because I had known him from high school, I was going to St. Barnabas, he was going to Mount St. Michael's, and then he came down to Virginia, and Corey was selling drugs and things like that. And so when we started communicating, you know, again, I can be different from Chris because I could say, listen, Corey, I already know what you was doing. You know, like when he came to me, Corey was like, oh, I took the stand. I told him I didn't sell any drugs and all kinds of stuff, but yet you was still in prison. And so I said to Corey, the very first conversation that I had was, don't waste my time because I know you were selling drugs. I said, Corey, have you ever thought about the situation that, listen, with clemency, what they want you to do is they want you to come clean and be remorseful for your action. We know that you were selling drugs, but you wasn't selling it on an $84 million case. right? Because
Right.
that's how much money, I think it was like almost $87 million they said that Corey had in his case. And he was given 16 life sentences. And so I told him, I said, listen, I'm not going to waste my time, because you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to stay in prison because you don't even want to accept responsibility for something that you know you did, but you were a low level drug dealer. You got involved with it because you were in college. And so he
Hmm.
took some time. He came back and he talked to me about it. And he asked me, he said, Karen, if I tell the truth, will you stay with me this entire time to fight for my freedom? And at that time I said, yeah. I said, let's do it. And so, I shared a story that I had no idea who Corey was. I just knew him from Mount St. Michael's. So 2 years into it, I'm reaching out to all kinds of attorneys. I'm reaching out to law students. And I think I got about 137 denials that say, you're wasting your time. Corey's never going to get out of prison. He has 16 life sentences. Nobody's going to touch us politically, all kinds of stuff. And I said, okay, well, thank you. I'm still going to keep trying. And so one day I actually was starting to follow a young lady by the name of Brittany K. Barnett, and she was doing wonderful things. She was a corporate attorney doing pro bono work. And so I took my chance. I sent her a message on Facebook, and I told her, I said, listen, I have a young man that's in prison. He actually had an attorney too. Later on, I found out he had an attorney after I've been doing all this work. And the attorney now is not filing anything. They paid to do a clemency. And 2 years now into it, he's still stuck. So I asked her, I said, well, can you do a consultation? And she was very honest. She says, no, because he has an attorney. And so I kind of said, listen, this guy is he's going to stay in prison. He's going to die. He has no violence in his case and things like that. And so I was able to talk to Corey and say, listen, Corey, I have a gut feeling that this is the right attorney. So, either you can stick to the attorney that's paid for, and Sean Combs had paid for the attorney. Like I said, I found out 2 years later into it that he had someone to pay for an attorney that didn't do anything. And so Corey made that decision and he fired that attorney, right? This lesson that we were able to receive after we talked to Brittany, I think that was like the fourth time she met with Corey, and then she decided to take his case pro bono. Now, to me, I think that's fantastic. What attorney do you know want to take a pro bono case with 16 life sentences? Not only did she take the case, but she won it.
Oh, wow.
And he's free.
See, and that's I guess for me, that's one of the most amazing things. I hear stories about this all the time. Like I said, I'm a big YouTube guy, and I see folks that's been exonerated, and I follow Barry Scheck and Peter Neufeld and those guys like that, and some of the work they have done in the past. I follow the Innocent Project, and my thing that I'm always struck by is just the amount of work it takes just to get to a point where someone will listen to them in order to do any kind of work at all. Right. And you have these individuals that are incarcerated already. They're incarcerated, and their only way of communications is how you say, is to write this stuff out. And salute to you and everybody else who actually give someone a chance to relation and give them a chance to explain what happened. I know, we talked briefly, about some of the cases that you have done. And if you could, just let's go through a few of your cases that you have done. Let's start with, I think his name was Aditra.
Yeah, Deetra Wiley Pate. Yeah, she's a case for me. And so when someone reached out to me about her case, I instantly gravitated to her case because, number one, she's a 56-year-old woman who was a VP in Equifax, had been a law-abiding citizen her entire life, never broke the law for anything, raised her kids, a daughter that's actually in medical school, and then a son that is a senior in college that wants to be an attorney. And Deidre was coming to the end of her career. A friend of hers asked her if she would purchase their medical billing company. And she says, okay, I'll do it. So she purchased the medical billing while she continued to work for Equifax and didn't really know anything about it. She kept the employees. And so unbeknownst to her, the employees were doing some things that were not correct in Medicare, right? And so because of that, she was indicted. And so she's, everyone thinks that the justice system is going to see, they're going to see that she didn't do anything. She had nothing to do with it. They offered her a plea agreement for 18 to 24 months. She told them no, because she knew she was innocent. She went to trial, and Deidre was convicted on her very first offense for 10 years. So she was given 121 months in prison. Now, can you imagine? And, you know, how do you go to prison and you've never even had a ticket? You know, and so this is the hard part. And so what I had to decide to do was, how can we help? How can we help her? And she had already tried to file the home confinement request, but because she hadn't done 50% of her sentence, she was denied. And so the next logical thing for me was to file her clemency application. And so we did that, just on the strength of the fact that, you know, here it is, she had a plea agreement. The prosecutors offered a plea agreement for 18 years to 24 years, and she didn't take it, but she's hit with a trial penalty, and now she has to serve 121 months in prison. So I'm advocating for her, and part of my advocacy work is to reach out to congressional people to tell about the story. We have a couple different options. We can help with home confinement to see if, you know, someone will be sympathetic to her case, because they say 50%, but people have been getting out for 35% and even less. So we're still working home confinement to try to get out on that, clemency, and then also we're thinking about assisting with a compassionate release.
Awesome.
So
Wow.
yeah, so Duke is one of my case. Yes.
Wow, that's good work. Really, really good work.
Yeah. You know, like I said, I kind of read up on you and seen some of the things that you have done, and how, you know, and one of the things that Sai said that kind of struck me was just the multitude of the backstory that goes into every case when someone's trying to get someone to listen to them, or just somebody to work on their case. And if you're in jail and things of that nature, could you could you give me like just a brief snippet on just how pro bono works for like attorneys or whatever? Just something, you know, how does it work?
Well, you know, some bars have like pro bono centers, and you know, you can reach out and you know, you can work for pro bono center. They may send you a case or two. The
Okay.
problem sometimes becomes, I'll be honest, if you're a attorney such as me, and you work I'm a solo practitioner.
Hmm.
I'm a solo practitioner by choice. I can only take so many pro bono cases,
Right.
because, like we said earlier, you got to spend the same amount of time on a pro bono case that you spend on a paid case. See
Right.
what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So, you know, now a lot of big firms, some of the bigger firms in the country, their attorneys will take a pro bono case,
Hmm.
and they also have an advantage that they may have is they'll have resources. See what I'm
Right.
saying? They may have resources. They say, oh, you know, like for me, if I take a pro bono case in Texas, Karen can tell you, you don't know what these judges are going to do. Judge may call a hearing for me Thursday. You think
Right.
I can
Right.
call down there and say, hey man, I'm taking this shit pro bono, I can't make it? No sir. You know, I had a case in Southern District of New York not too long ago, and you know, wasn't supposed to be a lot of work. Oh, I'm gonna help this guy out. Wasn't pro bono, but almost. I'm gonna
Right.
help this guy out. I had to go to White Plains, New York 3 times.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like the judge, you know, some judges, you know, you file a motion or something, they just call for a hearing. This judge, he wanted to see me. I said, man, I must be nice looking. He wants to keep seeing me. He said, oh man, hearing. The hearing next Wednesday. Here, I said,
Right.
I told one time, I said, y'all, I'll be finishing court in North Carolina that day. He said, oh, well, here's what I do for you. I push it back to 11 instead of 9. So you have to so you can have the big heart and say, man, I won't do pro bono. Karen,
Hmm.
to tell you, man, two things. Federal defendants know not only their case, they know the law. If they don't know the law, it's somebody in there with them who knows the law.
Right.
So you can't bullshit them. You can't call them and, oh man, I read this. No, they're gonna tell you, wait, this case just came out last week. You haven't read this case yet?
That's
Have you
true.
shepherdized it? Do you know anything about this case? You don't even know this case. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So how you gonna help me? You know what I'm saying? Because they know the law. A lot of them have resources. They've got people who helping them. Some of those guys in there, when she say jailhouse lawyers, they are getting people off of cases. Like they might can't get out themselves, but they might say, I got inmates who call me up and say, oh man, this guy, he got 15 people back. He just gave back 10 years for somebody. And you sitting in there like, well, man, I'm trying to work 20 other cases. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they don't care about that. So when you work in pro bono, you're not, once you sign your name on that line, once you make an appearance and federally you do it electronically, you're no longer doing them a favor. You're their lawyer. Like they paid you $100,000. That means you cannot fail to communicate with them. You cannot fail to file motions. You cannot fail to answer questions they have. You treat them just like you treat anybody else. So you can imagine if you take too many of those cases, right? You might, if you got 3 pro bonos and a paid case come, you might can't take the paid case. I mean, it's just how it goes. Because the bar will never ask you, well, what did you charge? They could care less. That's on you. You're a solo practitioner. You need to know how to handle your business. So if you take too many, and the thing about this thing, Karen can also tell you, these cases, they grow legs, man. You might think, oh man, it's one motion. Okay, well, the judge may say, you know what? Yeah, I appreciate your motion, but now I'd like you to follow up with a brief. Oh shit, I gotta write a brief. Yeah, now you gotta write a brief. And then you know what? After the government responds, because they're gonna respond very aggressively, now I'd like y'all to have a hearing on this. Oh shit, is a hearing? Well, wait, before you even get to the hearing, the government responded. Now what do I have to do? I gotta reply to their response.
Right.
Because you can't come in looking inadequate. You can't come in like I said, money don't matter at that point. Once I put Christopher M. Young on that appearance, I'm in that case, regardless. Right. Man, this cases I helped with 10 years ago, I still get notifications.
Right. And let me just chime in with what you're saying too. And that's the disadvantage too when we assist them with pro se, because with COVID, remember the courts have to send that particular person a response, and some of these documents, I think they're starting to catch on because the pro se motions look really good, so they seal it. They seal the documents, and so we have to literally wait until it's sent to the person that's in prison, and they type it or they send us a copy, and so now you have like 30 days to respond, and you're like, oh my God, so you have to ask for a motion to extend. But what I really like is, like I said, I think I have one of the best jailhouse attorneys that is out here, and that's Tommy Walker, because not only does he do it, but he has different attorneys who appreciate him because he's a certified paralegal. So he will assist those attorneys that don't have that quick turnaround time. And he's been so successful on a lot of motions. And let me just talk to you about 2 other cases because I really want to highlight them. And so I have a gentleman by the name of Anthony Viola, and to me this one breaks my heart. When this case came to me, you have a gentleman that's 77 years old, probably now 78, right? Because I've been doing this almost for like a year, and they have been filing motions. The son and the family has been spending hundreds of thousands of dollars over the 30-something years that the father has been in prison. And no matter how many times they file a motion, either the judge denies it or he's like waiting. So like right now, they have a compassionate release in prison. And if you have a judge, and this guy is 77 with all these medical conditions, his wife has medical conditions, and it's a marijuana case. He has a little bit of cocaine, but the majority is a marijuana case. What are you still doing keeping an older person in prison over 30 years? Like, he's done his time. And then the hard part that we see is because this case is out of New York courts. You have judges that are letting guys out that are on top of organizations that have tons of violence in their cases. And they're getting relief, but you have an older gentleman that has absolutely no violence in this case, and this judge is not ruling, no matter how many times that he has and I always get this word wrong, but a writ of mandamus, is that how you say it? Okay, yeah. And so that is in the courts, and the judge had an oral argument, and they had an attorney to do the oral argument, and the judge still won't rule. So now what we have to do is we have to do a clemency application, and then we put ourselves in a double-edged sword, because if we do a clemency and they find out that he has a motion that's pending in court, they can deny the clemency because they're saying, well,
Based on
he
the
still has
motion.
a motion in court. And so what sometimes as an advocate, what we have to do is we have to bring the story to light. We have to go on Instagram or Twitter or social media or start to do some press so that we can say, listen, you have an older gentleman who has done enough time, been separated from his wife of now 53 years, and draw some real compassion to see what we could do to help this particular gentleman. And then
Karen,
yes.
when you touched on that, tell us a little bit about, if you can, some of the celebs who you have worked with to help get people out, and just let us know how sometimes, like you just talked about, putting press behind it does help speed a judge up a little bit, or help the process move a little quicker than it probably normally would.
Yeah, we are so thankful for some of the celebrities that actually take some of the cases and they elevate them, and just simply by retweeting or even doing PSAs and talking about cases. I'll tell you about one right here in Virginia. There was an attorney, and again, I got some favorite attorneys. His name is Jared Adams, and so Jared Adams and I had only spoken a few times, and a team reached out to me for a gentleman by the name of Troy Ketchmore. And Troy Ketchmore was actually wrongfully convicted. And his best friend is Allen Iverson. And so what Allen Iverson did, and we were so happy that he did it, he actually used his voice and his platform to talk about his very best friend who's in prison that's wrongly convicted. And so Jared is actually an attorney. He's working on a wrongful conviction, but there were some changes in the law here in Virginia, and so Troy was able to get out on parole. But like you said, when you have a celebrity like Allen Iverson who doesn't even really use his platform to elevate cases, it brings attention to them, and usually it's a combination. They'll do like a change out or a petition, and so that you can get signatures, people will start to repost it or start to retweet it and things like that. And so when the governor or the parole board members may get a wind of it, and it becomes some type of political pressure to say, listen, these are cases that you may want to take a look at, it actually helps. I'll tell you about another case, a young man by the name of Matthew Russian. He was incarcerated. He's an autistic gentleman that was in a car accident, non-fatal. Unfortunately, the passenger was hurt. And we were able to go on to Instagram and to Facebook and to Twitter, and Tina Knowles picked up this case. And so when Tina Knowles picked it up, you already know that was such a humongous blessing for us. And so she had the young man's mother to go on and do lives and things like that. And so, we do call for actions, and we tell them, call the governor, call the parole board members. And so now every single day you have people calling, thousands of people. You have people calling from Brazil and Europe and everywhere, putting political pressure on the governor's office to say, listen, freedom. And it becomes such a tie-up that they can't really do their job, because every time you're getting emails, you're getting phone calls. And plus, it was just a real injustice in this young man's case. And so he had an attorney who filed a conditional pardon. His mom did an excellent job with her social media, just getting the information out. And so they were able to win a conditional pardon for them. And
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
And you said something that always strikes me, and I think I hear about a lot of these cases via what you said, the call for action, just everything, the social media plugs, the celebrity plugs, and everything like that. For me, I think that's one of the strongest tools you got before any actions is being done. Just say, hey, look, just getting the word of mouth out. And a lot of times, the public doesn't know anything about these cases,
no,
and how you
not at all.
and how you promote it on social media and get the word out to individuals like that. And I think that it raises the ire of the public, like, what, this is going on, this is what's really happening. And it's funny to me, it strikes me as very odd how public the cases are. It's available online and all that, but it's really hidden. The injustices, or just some of the things that these guys getting railroaded, are always hidden. It's not until people like you, your foundation, that Fighting for Freedom comes out and put lights on these cases, that everyone start to see like, whoa, something's wrong here. I don't have the ins and outs of it, but on the surface, something is super wrong here, and we need to get somebody on this and get some light on this. So I think that's
but let me tell you something too. It could backfire. I'll
okay.
tell you about Kwame Kilpatrick's case. And so Kwame Kilpatrick, of course, is the former Detroit mayor. And so his team reached out to me, and we strategized how to get Kwame out. And he was in a facility that was heavily infected with COVID. People were dying, all the time. And so we worked some channels, and I can say this now, Jared Kushner was able to assist Kwame's case in getting him home confinement, but I don't know what happened. Kwame was actually in quarantine, getting ready to be released, and somebody leaked it. Because one thing we told the team is don't tell people until Kwame is free, like let him touch the ground. And so it was leaked. And so somehow William Barr was still the attorney general. It got back to him, and they rescinded his offer.
So Jared Kushner, being the son-in-law of the former president, when it get to his hands, they don't. And I'm like I said, I'm a layman. Just school me. They don't really work hand in hand with the Attorney General of the United States. It's something that they kind of do, for lack of a better term, the backdoor kind of way.
The backdoor kind of way. Jared Kushner, I'm not a Republican, but I have so many wonderful things to say about Jared Kushner. I even had him, and it doesn't always have to be a high profile case. I had a case with a young lady by the name of Yolanda Dean, and Jim Brown from the Cleveland Browns, right. He decided that he wanted to advocate for Yolanda and his wife, right? And they called Jared Kushner. And, I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for saying these kinds of things, but Jared called her judge and said, listen, we know, we're familiar with this case, and we believe that she has every right to be released. The judge reviewed it, and Yolanda Dean's walked out of prison. And so what happens is that, some people in political positions, they sympathize with these cases, especially Jared at the time, because, he had a father that was incarcerated, and he was not afraid to use his voice to actually help. And that leads us into the conversation with Kim Kardashian. A lot of people had some negative things to say about Kim Kardashian. I'm probably one of her biggest fans, because it's, to me, they want to say that Kim is doing this for credit, or she's having credit stuff, but Kim doesn't even do it for credit. That's how I feel. Like, there's cases that you don't even know Kim has actually assisted with. I have an attorney here in Ohio that she's taken a case for me with a Deshaun Dye. And so the good part about me is that I've been able to work with some really top attorneys who are in connections with Kim Kardashian, and they reached out to me and they asked me, and they said, Karen, we have a case. Michael Thomason in Michigan was in prison for marijuana, and Kim wanted to advocate for Michael. And they said, well, Karen, do you have an attorney that can actually take this case? And this an attorney, Kimberly Kendall Corral, like, I just love her to death, because when I reached out to her about Deshaun Dye, she immediately took his case. And so in, like you said, billable hours, thank God I haven't seen a bill yet. We paid her a flat fee, but she's been with us for like 3 years. And so when they asked me if I had an attorney that could take his case, I was really happy to do it. Connected Kimberly Kendall Corral, and she worked that case. She had some good celebrities pushing behind her, like Snoop Dogg, and anybody with marijuana chimed in, and Kimberly won that case.
And let me piggyback on that. I had a client who was just released on my birthday, August 20th, from Edgefield down in South Carolina. He was serving a life sentence for actually something that happened in your hometown in Sumter, South Carolina.
No,
serving a life sentence. No, Sean's hometown.
Okay, sorry.
So the crazy thing is, he got out via compassionate release, but what happened was William Barr, Tim Scott, and Lindsey Graham went to visit Edgefield. and he was able to meet and talk to Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey Graham was so enamored with him. He's about 6'5", about 300 pounds. And he was so enamored with him and did not understand why he was not angry every day having a life sentence. That was when COVID first started. Within 8 months, he was released from prison off of a life sentence. So the first thing he says is, "Thank God for Lindsey Graham."
Can I ask both of you guys a question? And some of you guys have both brought in just detailed evidence of some of the work that these Republicans have done. And just your opinion, why don't you think they stand on that, like platform about some of the work they have done to get some of these individuals free? Why do you think that's more put forward? And I think people can be more compassionate to listen to what they have to say as they go around the country. Because for lack of a better term, everyone seems to be so hard on Republicans and all that. But from what you guys have said, just the evidence is out there that they listen, or they seem to be willing to help to free some of these people that's been wrongly convicted or just been railroaded by the justice system.
I think once they start to put their names behind it and say that they've advocated or they've helped this person get out of prison, they get so bombarded with a lot of requests right behind each other. And it becomes so overwhelming. And even with me as the founder of Fighting for Freedom, once I started to post the pictures to show that, I'm helping this person get out or this person get out, then the phone never stops ringing. I'm getting letters from everywhere. We're getting emails from all kinds of loved ones, and it becomes overwhelming. And so a lot of these political people, they want to do it, but they don't really want the credit or the validation. And I want to be really transparent. I want to be honest. I used to do things where people didn't even know that I did it. And if I had it my way, I would have kept it that way. It's just because I started this nonprofit organization. And in order for us to do what we need to do, my board says, Karen, you're the face of this. You're going to have to start showing pictures and showing your work. And then once I started showing it and the successes that we were having, I became overwhelmed because I also have a heart. And it's so hard when you have a mom that's calling you and saying, listen, my son's been in prison 25 years, 30 years. I've had guys who have been up for eligibility for parole that's been turned down 17 and 18 times. And what I find that I have to do is not only am I writing parole packages, but I'm also advocating for these people. And I do parole hearings because, you have to have a strong voice to go in. Like, when I hear the families, because I do sessions and I listen to them, there's no substance to it. They're only saying, I want my loved one to come out of prison because I miss my husband or I miss my son. The parole board members don't want to hear that. He's just another family member. So what we have to do is we have to tell them, what is it that your son wants to do when he comes out? We have people that are dying for gun violence. Maybe he should aspire to help, prevent gun violence or some type of thing. It has to be something so meaningful, or if they want to use their platform to advocate for other people. We just assisted a woman who was sentenced to, again, Medicaid fraud. She spent 7 years in prison. She's done, her sentence was 35 years. And my first phone call was, okay, so what are you going to do now that you're out? Because, if we're going to continue to file your clemency, I'm pretty sure that experience had to change your life. So what is it that you want to do to use your voice now to turn back in and to help other people? Because I think if we can say those types of things, it really makes such a difference in hearing. And we've been really successful with our parole packages. The parole board, I've always had so much respect for them, but they will deny. But we've been successful because we put a great package together and we conversate with these guys. I tell people all the time that the biggest problems that they're making when they go in front of the parole board is they still want to litigate their case and they still want to argue. And Chris could probably say the same thing. When you file clemency, it's no longer about litigating your case. No. What makes you extraordinary that you want to come out of prison? And I'll just tell you, like, my very first clemency win was under President Trump, believe it or not. I actually filed this one on my own. And, a lot of people said there was a lot of backdoor dealings and all kinds of stuff, but I was not involved with that because I have no access to the White House. What I did was I did a clemency petition for a guy named Daryl Frazier. And what was so compelling for Daryl, for me, was he had started a nonprofit organization that he was doing while he was in prison for tennis, right? And so we wrote that up, and I pushed it out on social media. And I remember saying, "Oh, I'm so excited that I just finished my touches on my clemency application. I'm about to file it." And unbeknownst to me, some people had seen it. They saw the change.org petition. They went behind some closed doors. They talked about it. And that's Jessica Jackson. And so Jessica calls me the weekend before they were going to grant it. And they said, "Karen, you know, we've been advocating for this young man. They want to see a clemency application. Do you have it?" And I said, "Yeah, I got it." So I sent it over to her Saturday. They called me Sunday and they said, "President Trump is going to grant your clemency for Daryl Frazier." And I'm just like, oh my God. Really? And so Daryl walked out of prison on the day that President Trump left his office. And I think you had a question to me about validation and credit and all kinds of stuff like that. In the beginning, I used to not even use my real name because this is not about credit for me. This is about reuniting a family. You know, when you see like a Troy Ketchmore went to his homecoming and his mom and his sisters are just loving on them, that's what this is about to me. This is about reuniting families that come home. Some of these cases are heartbreaking for me because there's two that I just don't even talk to them. Whatever reasons that they have, they came up with some, I call it some BS reasons. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not going to force anybody to talk to me. If you saw all the things that I've actually done to sacrifice to help you get out of prison and you can't call me, then we really don't need to speak. And it's not going to stop me from doing the work. I'm going to continue because for every 10 people, there's another 30 that would like our assistance. And, you know, I stay with the people that I advocate for. No matter how many times we get denied, then we just have to try to find another route to do it. And, you know, some of these cases I've been doing for about 5 years, 3 years. Like Deshaun Dye's my biggest case. He's in Ohio. And he was a young man at the age of 17, accidentally discharge a gun. And I'll answer this question too, Sean, when you mentioned like how did we get started? So when Deshaun's case came to me, all I did was file a Freedom of Information Act. And it was so crazy because the very first documents that I got was there was a witness at the crime scene that said the crime was an accident. And then when I looked through the trial transcripts and I read it, this young lady, her name was never mentioned in the court case. And no one ever said that someone was at the crime scene, the person who called 911, to say it was an accident. So that clearly told me that was exculpatory evidence. And so that's when I reached out to an attorney. And the other thing too, what we did with Deshaun, because at that time I really didn't have no money to even try to pay for an attorney. We did a GoFundMe page and raised enough money. We did an art show and we raised some money. We were able to pay his attorney. And like I said, thank God she hasn't sent me another bill. But yes, we raised funds at that time to pay for an attorney for him.
That's awesome, man.
And here's one more thing to add on, or two things. The first thing is, like Karen said, she talked about with the Corey Jacobs case. One problem that we have a lot of times as criminal defense attorneys and people doing this type of work is the lack of acceptance of responsibility. Like once you've been convicted, and it's a very thin line. Once you've been convicted, particularly by a jury, you got to wear that jacket. If soon as you write anybody, whether it be parole board, judge, or whoever, and you still fighting that case, the first thing they say is you have not been rehabilitated. And the five tenements of basically of the reasons for punishment are: 1, deterrence, incapacitation, rehabilitation, retribution, and restitution. So the first thing, when you're in federal court and you plead guilty, you have to write a statement saying, I accept responsibility. And they actually give you a little break on your case for doing that. You see what I'm saying? Because you have to accept responsibility. So when you see guys who, we see movies and they say, oh man, put him back in front of parole board. And he said, man, I ain't do it. Okay, take him on back. That's how it works. Once you get into this situation, the facts are no longer, they don't matter anymore. We've already factually said you did it. Either you said it by plea agreement or jury said you did it. So you did it, right? Remember 50 Cent said it? 50 Cent said if they say he did it, he did it.
Yeah.
You did it. Now what you got to do is start saying, hey, this is what I want to do next, like Karen said. But sometimes it's so hard to make people understand that. No, we can't go. You can't. What people do a lot of times is they find one mistake that the government made, and they live on that mistake. It don't matter if the cop broke 5 people's arms after you. You still had that gun in the car, bro. Like that's what matters. That's where we at right now. You see what I'm saying? And so Chris, if they don't do that,
Yeah, the 2 cases, the 2 parole meetings that I had, oh my God, I lost them because the young man, I told him, I said, don't go in there and say that you are innocent. And I said to him, it's a wordplay, right? What you have to do is say, I accept the conviction. And this is who I am, especially because he's had a great rehabilitation. And then when I did the parole hearing for him, the family went in and said he was innocent. And so when the parole board member asked me, right, so I had to say, I'm not a legal attorney. I'm not here to litigate this case. What I am here to say is that after talking to him, if it wasn't this case, he was going to go to prison because the things that he was doing anyway was going to land him in prison. And so he accepts responsibility for he accepts a conviction, right? And this is what he's done in the last 26 years. This young man, 24 years, he had like 2 infractions, right? But going back to this, Chris, and I guess we can talk and you guys just tell me when I got to be quiet.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, there are cases to me that have taken me a little bit longer because to actually write when I do clemencies. I have a guy that he's in prison for a triple homicide, right? His name is Rayford Parker, right? And no evidence whatsoever, no DNA, no physical evidence. It's 2 people, right? The gentleman who actually committed the crime turned himself in, or he went in, he was arrested and says, I didn't do it. And says it was Parker that did it, right? Was able to give all the details of the crime. Of course, you're going to give all the details of the crime because you know what you did. And says, I didn't do it. And so Parker, what he did was he exercised his right to trial, and he's convicted on a triple homicide, right? Wow. And there's no spin about this. I can't, and I told him consciously, we cannot accept responsibility for this crime. I can't even do it. So it's taken me a little bit longer because I have to find something different that was not discussed in his trial to try to prove that he was innocent. And I can't consciously turn in a clemency application until I can find something. And usually something will come up. I just have to keep digging. And that's really how I approach the things that I do.
And one more thing that we deal with, and I'm sure you deal with it because I deal with it, and I'm dealing with it now, is the waiting game. We have a hell of a waiting game, man, with judges, with panels. Man, you can wait sometimes for responses in these cases. You can wait upwards of a year to 2 years. I mean, and when I tell you there's absolutely nothing you can do, only thing you can do is what Karen said earlier, which is get some celebrity with a lot of followers or something and push that thing forward. But you can't call the judge's chambers and be like, hey, what's going on with this case? Bro, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't
work that way. And I totally agree with you on that one.
I got a question for you, Karen. You talk about a lot of the work that you do, and I guess a lot of work that you do involve travel and just the platform that you're on, and just reach out to attorneys and all that. How do you take donations, or how does that work? How do you kind of fund your organization?
Yes. So for 5 years, believe it or not, I was a school teacher. I tell a story all the time. I was cutting coupons to feed my family. I was doing things like that, and I didn't even have any idea about starting a nonprofit organization. I was just doing this out of my heart. But because of the successes, like I said, and the phone never stopped ringing, and I needed all kinds of people, I said, okay, let's do this nonprofit. So we've been raising funds. I do direct services, and I tell people now that I probably have more pro bono cases than I do paid cases, but we do charge a fee now, right?
Mhm.
But I don't turn people away if they don't have the money. I still take their cases, but we've been very fortunate to uh, get enough resources that we can help. Like I have people that's volunteering that will help me, but we do take donations. I am working on a website now. It's called fighting4freedom.info that we're going to launch. If you follow me on Instagram, Karen G. Morrison, I can always DM you and tell you how to donate. But we are looking for funding now because I do want to switch over to where we never charge anyone for the work that we're doing and that we just do this work pro bono. I want to tell you one other thing because you talked
Sure.
about celebrities, and I feel like it's in my heart to say this. So Bill Cosby, right? A lot of people think that Bill Cosby was just into himself, right? But that's
Mhm.
not true. Bill Cosby team reached out to me, Kia Wilson and Andrew Wyatt, and we talked about some of the things because they had a investigative team, a private investigator by the name of Scott Ross, and so I was able to talk the team members. So now Scott Ross is my private investigator that
All
donates his
right.
time to help me. So I'm truly
Wow.
blessed with that. Yeah, and also Andrew had a gentleman that was communicating, well, was in the prison with Bill Cosby, and he took great care of Mr. Cosby because, of course, he's legally blind, and just being in prison, people could have harassed him or do a lot of things. But this gentleman by the name of Anthony Sutton actually made sure that Bill Cosby was safe while he was in prison. And that camp paid me to do a clemency application for Anthony. And so I
Mm.
just want to say, some of these celebrities, believe it or not, they get the bad rap because they don't want to talk about it. But it's on my heart right now to say, Mr. Cosby made sure, and his camp made sure that he didn't just leave prison, that he is interested in helping people. And the very first person that he helped was Anthony Sutton. And so I filed his clemency application, and we're just, again, the waiting game. And then going back to David Poindexter and Derek Taylor. So I lost the first part with Derek with his case, but the judge said that his rehabilitation was just excellent. He felt like he needed to do more time. But now we're waiting for David Poindexter to get an answer. And he's one of my guys that are under 21 that's sentenced to life. And I'm really being optimistic because of the fact that the judge could have denied both of them at the same time. And since we're waiting, I'm just really optimistic that he is going to grant David Poindexter his freedom.
Awesome.
Wow.
Let me tell you something. Your story is absolutely amazing. Just how you started it and where you came from and where you are now, and then just the people that you've helped. You know, and it's funny you talk about Bill Cosby and how one person's helped, but that person helps someone else. And I guess that's just how it goes. And I'm just all about your story. I follow the podcasts, follow you on Instagram, and I see your stuff every single day. And I'm just, I'm always blown away about the work that you've done. I always throw a heart on it because, it's incredible. You always have a story to tell. You're always showing that you're helping somebody that can essentially help themselves. So I gotta honestly say,
Right.
man, salute to you, Karen, all the work that you've done, and continue success. We we salute you. Thank you so much.
And so we're going to launch our website, because everyone thinks that I'm just this one man show now. But I do want to shout out my board. There's some things that took place when I first started to do my nonprofit. And if it wasn't for my board members having my back, I don't think I would have been able to continue. So shout out to my board members. They know who they are. We're going to officially make them known, and I'm blessed to have 2 attorneys on my board. So yeah, I'm not the only one that's doing it, and they do volunteer work for us. And then we have some law students. I said I was going to shout Luisa Garcia out. I made a public announcement because she didn't have to help me. She's been helping me, and she was able to get an internship at a very prestigious law firm. And so to me, I felt like that was really good because of all the great work that she's helped me with. She edits my conditional pardons. She does research for me. And so for her to be in New York and now going to do an internship, I'm so excited about that. And I have 2 other young people, Wumi and Charlie. They like to stay behind the scenes, and sometimes I have to protect them as a founder too, because I just never want anything to come publicly that could, hurt their careers. But I do have some great young people that volunteer for me. And I, again, thank my board. My son, Malik Morrison, I had to shout him out this weekend. I was overwhelmed with a lot of work. He says, Mom, what can I do to help you? And he writes exactly like me. And so we were able to knock out 4 pardons just this weekend. So I'm truly blessed with everyone that has now come to assist me so that I don't have to do this alone. And we have one more case that I just want to tell you about. This young man has been dear to my heart. He had a triple life sentence, 3 life in Virginia for a non-homicide crime. He took a plea agreement for 13 years. That was all his sentencing guidelines called for. And so right now we were able to, I got him to the under review where the investigator came to the prison, but the NAACP was able to see me pushing on social media. We talked, and they got me an attorney at the very last minute that came in, read his case pro bono work, and saw some constitutional violations for his case, put that in. And so now we're just awaiting, and I think I'm going to win my first triple life sentence here in Virginia. And so I'll be making that up. I'm claiming that one.
All right. Oh, yeah. Hey, that's good work, Karen.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, you always got a home at the Podcases. Whatever, I'm serious. Whatever you have going on, or you just want to come back and visit with us, we will continue to reach out to you and see if you got anything that you want to kind of bring to the forefront. You always have a home here. We really sincerely appreciate the work that you have done. We will highlight this information on our YouTube channel. We will chop this up. It's incredible work, and I thank you. You're a blessing to a lot of people. So thank you so much. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you guys for having me.
We're gonna collaborate, right, Karen?
Yes, you already know I started.
Right. Okay.
That's what I like to hear, man. Let me tell you something, man. You always need a plumber, a mechanic, and a lawyer in your life. You know what I'm saying?
So that's why you my friend, huh?
That's exactly why. But my brother, hey, I hope you guys go to, whatever you guys can collaborate to do, man. And it's gonna be all good, and I'm excited about it. Miss Karen, you have a home anytime you want to. We have your information. You have our information. If you have something you want to speak on, you have a platform here on the Podcases. Just make yourself available to us on Sundays, and we'll make sure we're available to you.
Thank you guys. Thank you for having me, and thank you for supporting the work that we do at Fighting for Freedom.
Everybody, everybody. When we edit this up and put it on the on our YouTube and our social medias and everything like that, we're gonna have all your information, have everybody get in contact with you, and how to continue to support your movement, because what you're doing is all good. It's all good. So we need to support that. And thank you.
And there'll be a donation coming from the podcast.
They will.
For sure.
I thought the donation was you collaborated.
No.
Well, That too, but we're gonna also send another donation.
Nah, we got to donate to what you're doing because because the legwork that you're doing and all this work that you're doing is it's not free. So we have to support you, and we will support you. So thank you so much for what you've done, Karen, and the Fighting for Freedom Foundation. We look forward to the website, and we're going to support you from here forth more. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Karen. You got anything you want to say before we let Ms. Karen go enjoy Sunday?
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
No problem. Enjoy your Sunday evening. We'll be in contact. Okay.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.